the notes I was given was to actually start by talking about how the management role has evolved. My name is Michael Eaton. I came into the business in '65 as a lawyer, and I practiced as such for a long time, and had a number of major clients, but also acted as a business manager. I do consider myself extremely fortunate because it has been a very exciting and at the same time comparatively straightforward period. It's exciting because with the advent of the Beatles, Bee Gees, who were clients of mine, Elton John, who I litigated against, so I can't say he was a client, and various others, we were able to change the way the pie was divided up, much to the benefit of the artists. I think the lawyers and the managers did that between them. However, in dealing with emerging artists, life was quite straightforward because there was really one road that one followed, and that was to try and get a record deal. That was all important. Indeed, once management agreements had settled down to an agreed form, nearly all agreements would give the manager a period of about 1 year in which he had to find a record deal or possibly a publishing deal as a springboard to a record deal. If a record deal wasn't found, the manager would probably lose the gig, and as likely as not, the artist would disappear from the radar. If the deal was procured, then really the record company became the banker, providing funds both to the artist and in marketing the artist, and generally providing the momentum for the artist. The manager, for the most part, had a comparatively supporting role. Certainly the manager would be left to organize the tours, and then certainly in the early days of rock and roll had the vital job of delivering the marijuana and settling with the hotels after the rooms had been trashed. I think also there was a slightly different perception, depending on which side of the Atlantic one was, of the role of the manager. In the States, where the music business was much more developed than over here, for the most part, I think managers were seen as a positive influence, whereas over here, they were rather treated with suspicion, I think.
My name is Bruce Flohr, and I'm based in the States, and my background is a 17-year label veteran at RCA Records BMG, where I served a bunch of different jobs from promotion to marketing, and finally ended up as an A&R man, where I signed, fortunately, the Foo Fighters and a band called the Dave Matthews Band. In '02, I saw the wobble start to happen, so I left the label side of things, and I joined Core and Capshaw's Red Light Management. The company that we have is probably the new model in the sense that we have built a lot of infrastructure that we've had to out of necessity because, as we all know, the labels are doing less and less for our acts. So our company basically employs many of the services that labels used to provide, and that's put. It's almost one of those situations with management. Be careful what you wish for, because the power has certainly shifted to the artist, which is great, and it puts our artists in a very enviable position moving forward. But that power also gives the managers a lot of responsibility. And as the labels go away rapidly, so does their money, but also so does the excuse of it's the label's fault. So it's now incumbent on the manager to really have to take care of the entire business. And what we're finding in the States, and I'm sure it's everywhere else, is the job of a manager is changing rapidly, in the sense that I find myself almost as a brand manager or brand marketer, as opposed to a classic rock and roll manager where you book the tours and sell the t-shirts. So the skill set is changing, and the rewards are, as we all know, diminishing. And I think the difficulty and the concern I have, and it's really just a point, I don't have an answer, is the cottage industry manager, I think, is in jeopardy. And that is the guy who works with the band, or the person who works with the band who did it because they're passionate and they're a friend of the band, or they worked at the record store and helped the band grow. Because the artists are starting to demand so much more from their management companies, and the passion that we all have to be in this business is now starting to be put in the back on the back burner because it's a business and you have to feed the beast.
If we're suggesting that the individual manager is having a more important position in the whole sort of game, and that the cottage industry manager particularly is struggling, is that, you know, how are we going to cope with these enormous corporations that we're going to have to deal with as far as recorded music are concerned?
Well, that's a good point, and our company has developed a new company out of this necessity called Greenlight, and it is a content management company strictly set up to deal with corporate America. It's set up so that the relationship between corporate America or corporations and the artists is an authentic one.
Do you as it were, only work with people that you manage, or do you have deal with other managers and other artists for certain sections of your business?
The core management company is we obviously manage the bands. We also have a record label, which is ATO Records, where we don't manage all the artists. And then we have a merchandise company where we manage just a handful, and then the rest are just relationships we have. But more and more, the artist is coming and saying, I want you to do it all. I want you to be my manager, I want you to be my record label, and I want you to be my merchandise.
Are you also a digital aggregator?
Yes.
So you're doing the whole
kit and caboodle.
Now, how is that going to work legally? I mean, I'd have thought, Michael, you'd be worried. I would be worried that there's a serious conflicts of interest knocking around in there, potentially from his point of view, wouldn't you think?
Possibly, yes, depending, of course, well, in part, whether commission is taken on some of the areas where they have a profit centre. Certainly didn't put people off in the 60s, but most of them led to litigation.
They left, yes, exactly.
The problem is that when you build the infrastructure that we have, right, you're providing all these services. So there's a conversation that you could potentially make that, yes, I'm taking the income from those other streams, but it has to fund services that I didn't have to provide before. So you have in-house publicity, you have in-house marketing, you have in-house promotion. These are all things that unfortunately goes back to the artist having to bear the burden.
So do you have a series of contracts with your artists? I mean, in other words, if you're with you for management and then you're going to then go with your record company, does the artist have to sign a different
yes.
a different
agreement?
agreement?
We don't. It's not an umbrella deal. And here's the thing: we have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure if there's a better deal out there from a record side of things that I can provide, I have to let my artist know about that. What's the difference is how the business has changed is the artist is now doesn't want to know about the other side. They don't want to know about that big major label deal because they don't want to play with the devil.